Hey, welcome to the I Hate to Tell You This podcast. This is episode 5, and this is Real Life with Godly Advice. And today we have another guest with us, and this is Ixa Giovannini, and she is part of our circle. So we talk a lot about our inner circle of friends, and she is in ours, and we're excited to have her with us today as we talk all about dating. But before we dive in, we are going to give our book and podcast recommendations. Go for it.
Okay, my book recommendation for this week is Gentle and Lowly by Dane Ortlund. This is a book all about the character of Jesus and how his attitude is towards us. It's a really great read, and you know, I'm so passionate about reading in general that I don't want to just give you recommendations. I actually want to give this book to one of you. So we're going to have our very first giveaway of the podcast. If you'd like to win a copy of Gentle and Lowly by Dane Ortlund, just comment on our YouTube post with this episode. And on Saturday, we're going to pick one of you to win Gentle and Lowly. And it can be any format. So whatever your preferred reading format is, audiobook, ebook, physical copy, just let us know and we'll get that to you.
That's so generous. All right, I'm going with a podcast, and it is going to have to do with today's episode, but it's by Bianca Juarez. Probably not saying that right. Can you say that one? That's Juarez. It's called Dating Boot Camp. So she's her podcast is called We're Going There. I like it already. We're Going There podcast. So check that out, and it's a great follow-up to our podcast today. Also, stay tuned at the end of this episode. Leslie and I are going to do a fun little Q&A with our husbands to see if our answers match, see how well we know each other. Our answers probably won't match. It's going to be great, but we'll see how that goes. To start off today's episode, we are going to let Ixa answer the question we ask all of our guests, which is, number 1, what would you tell your 21-year-old self?
All right. I might refer to my notes just because I don't want to go off on a tangent. But what would I tell my 21-year-old self? I would tell myself, find your identity, value, purpose, and I'm even going to add power in Jesus, first and foremost. And here's why. So when I was a senior in high school, I took a humanities class. I loved the class, loved the teacher. It made an impression on me. And in that class, we were taught about the philosophy of hedonism. Now, if you don't know what hedonism is, it is the philosophy where your life's goal is basically seeking self-pleasure. And in seeking self-pleasure, you're avoiding pain. So people, circumstances, anything that might cause you pain, you're avoiding that all in your pursuit for pleasure. So I remember having this epiphany in the classroom, and I'm thinking, that's it. That's going to be my life's goal, is to seek self-pleasure. It's going to be all about me. And within a few months of 2021, I moved to Las Vegas. Didn't know anybody, just decided I was going to take an adventure and move to Vegas. Now I joke and I say I ran away, but I moved to Las Vegas, and I thought, this is the place. This is where I'm going to pursue this life of self-pleasure. And so in pursuing that, I found that I just was becoming a lot more selfish, and, it was this whole all about me mentality. And then with that, though, I remember, I found this sense of power and control, which I felt like I was missing for a long time. I grew up in a very Christian Mexican home, if you know, you know. And I just felt like I never had control over my own decisions. And so I finally was in this place where I was going to gain this independence that I craved. But then I realized that, and I'm going to read this, I would eventually learn that my false pursuit of pleasure and power led me feeling more unhappy and living, in more chaos and pain. I was never in control of my life, and I was being led further and further away from Jesus under the ruse of self-pleasure.
How long have you been married?
This year will be 17 years.
Wow, 17. So you got married when you were 12.
Thank you.
And then just give us a brief description of your faith journey.
So like I said, I grew up in a Christian house. As a little girl, I remember going to church twice on Sundays, morning and night. And now looking back, I remember feeling like I don't think I ever really allowed God in. I never, grew roots, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And, so allowing something as innocent as hedonism, I was able to just kind of walk away. And I don't think I intended to walk away, But that's exactly what happened. You know, in just this pursuit of living this selfish lifestyle, I just found myself walking further and further away. And it's not like I ever stopped believing in God, or it's not like I ever, it's not like I didn't love
You didn't walk away and
Jesus.
become an atheist.
No, like I always believed, and I do remember there were parts of my life where I would talk about it to other people, and I remember being embarrassed when people would go, "Oh, you're a Christian?" I was like, "Oh man." So, but I never stopped believing, but I knew that my life was not matching what I had grown up to learn, and it wasn't until shortly after I met Art and we started dating, and you know, a lot of things happened where we found ourselves having to go back to church.
Yeah. Okay, so that leads to the next one. We just like a little story of you and Art and living together, and then your engagement and getting married.
Okay. So Art and I met when we were both police officers. I worked as a police officer in Las Vegas shortly after I had moved there. And by this time, I had already been married once. And then I was living with someone who I was engaged to be married to. And neither relationship I really wanted to be in. Obviously, the first one, I didn't want to be married. And the second one, I knew that I didn't want to be married. But I was, engaged because I think I felt like it was the right thing to do.
Yeah. The next step
Yeah.
in the
And then I met Art on the force, and he was also coming out of a difficult divorce. So here's one broken person meeting another broken person coming out of, I was getting out of my broken relationship, my broken engagement. And, we connected. I mean, not right away. I think I'd say at first, I think we annoyed each other, to be honest. But we started dating, and it wasn't easy. We brought all of our brokenness and baggage and issues with us. And because of that, with exes and, having to split time with his son. And there was just a lot of stress in our relationship as a result. But I think it was all of those things that we realized, you know what, if we're going to do this, we probably need to go to church and we need to make it right. And I don't know what it was about Art. I think I finally realized I had met a person that I connected with, who I knew, like, once we started dating, I realized this was going to be the person that I was going to feel safe with. Mm-hmm. And I remember that feeling that was the word, I feel safe with him. Yeah. And I said, this is going to be the guy that I'm going to marry. And as soon as I realized that, I thought, we should probably go to church and make this right. Mm-hmm. So, but at the time, we were living together. Again, because I had just got out of a broken relationship, so I moved back into my home. And Art was living with a buddy in a room that he was just kind of living in. And so I invited him to come live with me, and so we were living together. But when we started going to church, the pastor immediately, we must have called attention to the pastor because he immediately called over to Art and I, and he introduced himself and was like, Art, when are you free for lunch? And, Art came home and told me how he got grilled on how we know each other, how long have we been dating, how long we've been living together, what our plans are, how long do we plan on living together, what it means to, have a relationship with Christ, all the things. So Art came home and was like, so I think we're in trouble. He's like, he goes, I'm pretty sure that we're grounded and we can't live together anymore. And so, needless to say, we were pretty convicted, and we started going to church, and we started just to kind of get to know people and getting more involved. So we made the decision that he should live in another room, and I would stay in my room, and we would practice abstinence until we got married, and that's what we did.
I bet that was super easy for you. So easy. What a setup for success. We'll talk about that later.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's good. But didn't Art have to he's like, we're going to do this now, because...
So, yeah, what's funny is because, previously I mean, I had been engaged and living with someone else for 5 years, dragging my feet, going, I don't want to get married. I'm never going to get married. Like, that's just not what I wanted. And then I met Art, and I remember we went on our first date, October 27th of 2007 was like our first official, like he asked me out on a date. Mm-hmm. And we were married by October 25th the following year, 2008. Yeah. And it was that quick. Like, you know, as soon as we went to church and we split rooms, and before I knew it, he was like, you know, he was asking me to marry him, and 3 months later, we had planned our wedding, and we were married, and it was done.
It was done.
So it was quick.
It was finished.
And we can share a room again.
You moved back in. You allowed it. Oh, that's good. Okay, we're going to dive in. We had good questions about dating. We had really good feedback on the Q&As for dating and all the questions we threw out there. So thank you for responding. This is going to be one of 2 episodes, so we're going to end up splitting this because we have so much to talk about, and we're going to start with singleness.
Yes, I think before we can even begin a conversation about dating, we have to start with singleness, because I think so many people feel like singleness is like this curse or a disease that they need to get cured of, like that there's something wrong with them because they're single. Mm-hmm. And so I think first we need to address that. Like, there is nothing wrong with you. Singleness is not a disease. It's just a phase of life. And some people are called to singleness for their whole lives, but for a majority of us, there's going to be some period of your life that you are single. And I think the best thing you can do is to take advantage of that season. There's a freedom to singleness that you will not have once you're married, and especially once you're having kids. And that's not to say marriage is bad or having kids is bad, but your options are limitless. Like, when you're single and it's just you, there's so much more you can do. And I'm not just saying like fun things like travel. I'm talking like ministry things too, that you have the time for, you have the freedom for, and take advantage of that.
Yeah. And just practical education.
Yeah.
Finding your own place.
Yes.
Figuring out who you are in Christ before everything else comes in. Yeah, I like, just because you're single doesn't mean something's wrong with you. I feel like you have to fully wrap your mind around that and be okay with that. It's not a desert you're going through. It's like it's a beautiful stage of life that God designed for you. If God's plan was for you to be married or dating right now, you would be. Yeah. You haven't screwed up God's plan in any way, right? So you've got to get out of that mindset altogether, and which is going to lead into, are we ready to date? Because until you figure out you're okay being single and you're who you are in Christ, then you're not ready to date anyways.
Yeah, I
agreed.
Exactly. Like, I think so many people are trying to find their soulmate, so to speak, or that one person who's going to complete them and make them whole and fulfill them in every way. And if that is your expectation, you are going to be disappointed. You just are, because there's no matter who they are. No matter who they are. Like, no matter how perfect this other person is, there is no human being on the planet who can bring you wholeness and fulfillment. Like, that is only found in Jesus.
Absolutely.
So stop looking for another human being to fulfill you or complete you. And also, like Carrie said, you have to know who you are. You have to have your identity rooted in Jesus, because, for one, if you don't know what page you're on, like, how are you going to find someone who's on the same page as you? If you don't know what you want, how can you find another person who's going to complement you in life? That's going to be hard. And also, if you're not firmly rooted, there's going to be a lot of temptation to find your identity in that other person or in your relationship, which can be very traumatic then if you have a breakup or whatever the case is. If you were finding your identity in that relationship or in that other person, it brings a whole other level of complications.
Right. And this is where media has played in. Forget social media. Like, these are movie lines, right? You complete me or whatever is... That's where we've come to. But unless his name is Jesus, no one's going to complete you. And you're just going to end up empty every time.
I know I always tell Viviana when we're having conversations about her, future husband. I said, pray that your husband loves Jesus more than he loves you.
Yeah.
100%. He has to come first. And I go, and same for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's important that you find who you are through Christ first and praying that your husband, whoever that person's going to be, also has found their roots in Christ as well.
If or when someone breaks up with you, and let's face it, you're probably going to get broken up with in your dating life. Very few find their first date and marry that one person. But if breaking up with someone is going to demolish who you are, or just the people ranting on social media after a breakup, or just woe is me, and the whole persona of it, like if that's what you're going to be like after a breakup, then you're not ready to date. You have to go into it knowing it's okay if the other person says no. I mean, it'll still suck. Your heart can still be broken. You can still go through the process of these emotions. I'm not saying get over it and just be okay, but you have to be emotionally mature enough that when you get dumped, it's okay, and be good with that, knowing that God is saving you from what he didn't design for you, and he knows what's best. Like even your broken off engagements, like you might have felt like, oh, I just wasn't ready to get married, but God was like, no, right? Like
that's not your person.
That's not your person. Living life to your fullest is the most attractive thing that you can do. I also heard a man can't chase you if you're not moving. So if you are just like, I will just wait here. I also heard you have to also go out and put some effort into it, because if you're at home sitting on your couch waiting for a man to ring your doorbell, the only people it's going to be is UPS, FedEx, or DoorDash. Like that. But you living life to your fullest, you doing ministry, you getting educated, you finding a career, like enjoying life with your friends, like that's beautiful and that's attractive or handsome. Sorry, we're going to be one-sided here, but if you're a dude watching, flip that in your context. But just, you don't need to perform to be chosen. Just live life to the fullest, because that's attractive.
Yeah. Definitely. And I think, once you're at the point where you're like, okay, but I am ready to date, I feel like I'm in this place, then who should you date? Because I think this is vitally important that we talk about this.
Jesus, and then this.
Yes. Because dating has a purpose, and it's not just to go out and have a good time. Like, I know culturally speaking, that's kind of what our culture says dating is for. We're just going out and having a good time. But if you're just looking to go out and have fun, like, that's what friends are for. But if you want to date and have a romantic relationship, the purpose is really to find a spouse. And this is important that you pick the right people, because if you're going to marry someone, this is now your partner in kingdom work for the rest of your life. You don't want to be dragging around dead weight.
That's good.
Or being pulled off mission because you picked the wrong person. And so you have to know what you're looking for. And I loved, there was a Right Now Media series we watched, Jonathan Bacolda. I think we'll link it in the show notes.
It's an interesting name.
Yes. But I loved how he says you have to know what you are looking for, or else you will look at everything and anything. And that is the truth.
That's what happens when you go into Target without a list.
Yes. Oh my goodness, that is so true.
Yes. So you've got to go into this knowing at least having a basic idea of what you should be looking for. And that list, if you're looking for a lifelong spouse, do not pick based on fleeting criteria, because those six-pack abs or that amazing hair is very quickly going to turn into a dad bod with a receding hairline. Like, those things don't last. I'm not saying you shouldn't find your significant other attractive.
It's a good thing CJ doesn't watch this.
I'm not saying that you shouldn't find him attractive, but like, don't pick a lifelong partner.
They can still be attractive.
Criteria.
Let's put that on the table. You can still be attracted to them, but it can't be.
That's not the most important criteria. Yes.
And I say no fixer-uppers. You can have a fixer-upper house, but you do not have a fixer-upper spouse. It's not your job. You're not the Holy Spirit. It is not your job to fix them or bring them to Jesus. And the story of Billy Graham is that he was dating some girl in high school, and she broke up with him because he didn't follow Jesus closely enough, or he wasn't spiritual enough, somewhere along those lines. And that wrecked him, and then he ended up becoming Billy Graham and winning thousands and thousands of people to Jesus. So it's not that this isn't possible, but it also wasn't that girl's job to pull him along, because if you're pulling him along or her along in the beginning, you'll be pulling them along the entire rest of the time. And it's not to say they can't have the space to go find Jesus, but I don't think that should be done in a romantic relationship, because even if they did find Jesus and come along, chances are at some point they're going to think they only did that for you. And I feel like that's something that could come back in your face later on. I did come up with a list of 5 non-negotiable traits. If you watch the Dating Bootcamp podcast that I recommended, she has a girl on the podcast who's going to essentially go through this dating bootcamp. And she says, start with a list of 50 traits that you're looking for in this person. Rip it up and narrow it down to 25. And then rip it up and then narrow it down to 10. And then rip it up and narrow it down. So I wanted to kind of go along with that. So here's 5. Number 1, fully love Jesus and secure in their identity because of it. They love Jesus. They know who they are because that's who God called them to be. And we're going to touch on this later, but it all comes down to being equally yoked. And we'll talk about that from 2 Corinthians 6:14. Number 2, be on the same page about family and how you want to raise your kids. What is your marriage going to look like? What does raising your kids, what's that going to look like? Are you going to go to church every Sunday? What are you going to spend your money on? These aren't first date conversations, but they're important conversations to have towards the front end. Obviously, don't sit down, my name is Carrie, how do you want to raise your children type of thing. But these are non-negotiables, because maybe they're a Christian now or they weren't raised that way, and that's not how they want to raise their children, or they value spending their money on different things. They're never going to tithe, but you want to tithe, important things like that. Same page financially. Financial problems is the number 1 cause of divorce. So it's important, and those could be awkward conversations, but will they support who's going to be the one in the relationship to be the backbone financially of your family, or both of you? Take Financial Peace University and get on the same page. Know how much debt they're coming into this relationship with. Again, not a first date conversation, but if you're going to get married, you're taking on their debt as well, and vice versa. Have that out on the table. Be aware of it. Number 4, shared values, family, respect, church, integrity, communication, and not what they want in these things, but what are they actually living out? What's on display right now? Because goals, if you're in your 20s, like, these things should be starting to really get in place for the rest of your life. All right, and then number 5, a job, a car, and a plan. You can't go on a date without money, so you need a job. You can't go on a date without a car because you can't get there. And then a plan. So if you're 21, which a lot of the young adults dating questions, that's where you're at. You're probably not already there with a master's degree or finishing your degree. You don't have to be there. You don't have to have this, over 100K job already, but you need to have a plan. Like, I plan to graduate. I plan to go to trade school. I plan to move up in this job. I plan blah, blah, blah. Have a plan in place and never compromise.
That's good.
Solid list?
Yeah. Definitely.
And the rest could be negotiable. The 6-pack abs? Negotiable,
yeah.
How they look? Negotiable. Was CJ and Art exactly what you thought they would be? Or what you originally had in mind?
No.
No.
100. I mean, like, the non-negotiables, yes, that's why we are married still, but everything else, 100% no.
Like that middle school list of my dream man.
I love my husband, but no.
To be fair, I wouldn't even say that Art showed me a different life than I had pictured for myself, because I didn't know that I wanted to get married. And then when I thought, well, if I do marry someone, I also wanted the adventurous lifestyle. I want to travel. I wasn't sure that, she's going to kill me when I say this, I wasn't sure that I wanted to have children because they get in the way of that adventurous lifestyle.
What?
So, but when I remember, again, when I met Art, he just changed for me everything that I thought I had wanted, that I was looking for in other people, and I was unsuccessful in those relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And then I found Art, who was just this very stable person, and he's always been a leader from the beginning. And like I said, I felt safe, and I was like, wherever you're going, I'll go with you,
Mm-hmm.
because I just feel like we could. And then when he mentioned about having children, I just remember, without hesitation, I just went, I'll have a child with you. And being a mom, even though I had never thought I wanted that, has been the best thing that's ever happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's why it's so important to have these non-negotiables, because like my life today is nothing like the life 21-year-old me thought I would be living at this point. Like,
you
if
got
you
married
would,
at 21.
I got married at 21, yes. And if you would have told 21-year-old me what my life would look like now, I would have either thought you're lying, or I would have been like very distressed by like
Having all these kids wasn't part of your life.
Like, are you kidding me? I mean, I love my life now. My life is more fulfilling, and I find more contentment in the life I have now than I would have ever found in the life that I thought I wanted. But I think that's why it's important to have this foundational, like, as long as this person is, you know, these things, they fully love Jesus, they're secure in their identity, you share values, you're on the same page with those important things, then when life turns out differently than you thought it would, you're still there, you're still solid.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Because you knew who they were at the core.
Yeah.
And I feel like our husbands might not have that much in common, but stability, I
Yes.
think, is
Yes.
something that I could say all of our spouses have. All right, how should we date?
All right. There's a lot of debate over who should ask who. I kind of like what Bianca wore. Say her last name, please.
Juarez.
Thank you.
Yeah,
It's better
same.
She says it can be either. There's stories in the Bible of men asking women, and then there's a story of like Ruth, who was clearly the initiator of that relationship. And so, you know what? I kind of agree with her, right? It could be either.
Some guys need a little bit of prompting.
They need some not so subtle hints sometimes. So
They need a little nudge. Yep, I agree.
Yes. We'll get to it later, but whoever asks pays.
Yes.
And that'll be
What?
That'll be it. I know. That's what I said.
These are rules?
But then I went, we'll get there. Okay, I think anyone can ask, but after that, I believe it's the man's job to pursue, because I think that's how they were wired, and how the Bible talks about the man is the leader of the home and should demonstrate that leadership. So I'm all for whoever can ask, who, go, whatever, however it starts, I'm all for that. But after that, the man should take the lead. The man should be taking you on the dates. The man should be paying. The man should be doing all these things, because he's setting the tone for the rest of the relationship after that. Is he going to continue to do that? Because he should be pursuing Jesus for the rest of his life, and he should be pursuing you for the rest of your life. And the Bible talks about that. All right, practical tips from a professor at Boston College. Her name is Carrie Cronin. She has an entire course on dating because she has seen the deficit in dating in America. So if you feel like you haven't gone on a date lately, you are not the only one. So this professor has seen the problem, and she actually has a course that you can get credits from all about dating. So if you take the course during the semester, trimester, whatever it is, you have to actually go on a date to pass the class. So she has these rules in place and like practical tips and rules of what to do to start dating.
I would have passed with an A.
A plus. Number one, you ask, you pay. And I think it is simply just to get people to actually go on a date. So just you ask, you date, it's polite. And you have to ask in person, not over Instagram, not over Facebook, not over text message, not over phone call, face to face. Number two, do not use your phone on the date. What? You're going to have full attention during your date? Have a clear start time. and an end time. She says 60 to 90 minutes because you're not as fun as you think you are. Which I thought was really funny. But it's a polite thing to do because sometimes people are too polite to give you hints and stuff like that. Be prepared to move on. So she is saying just go on a date to figure out dating is what, the core of her class. But be prepared to move on. It's okay if that person wasn't the one, especially if you just met them in class or you met them at Starbucks. Be okay with the no, which goes with our emotional maturity talk. Focus on making a connection, not finding true love. So simply, as two humans, find something to relate on, something in common, etc. There's no physical contact in this date other than an A-frame hug. Which is awesome.
My favorite.
Middle school dance rules. Which we'll get to that, but it's releasing hormones in your body that are going to confuse your brain. We'll get there. And then no alcohol. So that you can think clearly, have face-to-face connections, and get to know someone without being tricked by alcohol or physical touch or whatever little device you're using. So I like those practical tips. You should use them, and you should try to go on a date.
So lunch or coffee, not dinner and drinks.
Yeah.
Yes. Or I think she said if it was drinks, it had to be coffee or tea.
Right.
Well, yeah, I want to say she had rules on specifically that. I'll put the link in the video because she's hilarious to watch anyways.
I mean, I think that's solid advice though, because when you involve alcohol or other things, it does. Right, like
lowers
people are funner when or whatever, they seem funner to you, right? Like it's tricking you into thinking things that aren't really true. So
yep. This is from a dating expert that I found on Instagram, and now she's my hero, and I want to be a dating expert for all the young adults. Just kidding. She gave me 5 questions to ask on a first date. So we're giving you practical tips, real life, godly advice, and practical dating tips.
Let's hear it.
Number 1, do you like your job? And it was not what do you do or how did you get there? Do you like your job? Because she said you'll hear from them very quickly if they do, why they love it, and then you'll start opening them up about what they're passionate about or what they're not passionate about. If they're not happy in their job, you open up that book of I don't like this, I don't like this. Are they a critical person? Are they just unhappy in life, or is it just the job? Are they a workaholic? Are they putting minimal effort into their job? Lots of things open up with that question. I really like that. Number 2, what are your goals, your purpose, your intention, and your plans? And that lets you know about their future, like not just where they're at. And I liked that. Number 3, why are you dating? And she said, that's a little awkward question to ask because you are the date. She's like, but you are the date, so you have a right to ask, why are you dating? Are they just moving on from fling to fling? Is this just
looking for a good
time? Or are they looking for a real spouse and partner in life? Number 4, when was your last relationship? She said, don't pry on details with this, but knowing when their last relationship will answer a lot of questions. Did they just break up with someone yesterday? Did they just get out of a long relationship? And usually they'll open up about more relationships than that. Like, has it been short relationships, or have they been long-term? Have they been stable? It opens the door to a lot of other conversations. And then number 5, tell me one embarrassing story about yourself. She goes, you'll see their humility. Can they laugh at themselves? Do they have a big ego? How did they respond in that situation? And she said, and it usually just ends up in a good time because you're laughing and kind of takes the pressure off. But thought those were really good, practical tips.
Definitely. And I think, like, once you start dating a person, and let's say the first few dates went well, you're now going to be in a relationship with this person. It's moved past we just went out on a date, which, by the way, I guess we should differentiate here. Going out on a date is not the same as being in a relationship with a person. Like, you can definitely date somebody and you're not boyfriend, girlfriend, you're not in a committed relationship. You're just seeing if this is a person you want to be in a relationship with. So once you've gotten past those first few dates, you're like, yes, like, we're going to be in a relationship. I think we got to talk about what what does a healthy dating relationship actually look like? Because I think there's a lot of unhealthy relationships, whether it's being portrayed in the media, your friends, maybe even your parents. Like, we see plenty of unhealthy relationships that not many people know actually what a healthy relationship looks like. And so we just want to lay out a few indicators. This is not an exhaustive list, but kind of a starting point for you to evaluate. And the first one is healthy relationships. People in healthy relationships don't play games. They don't give each other the silent treatment. They don't purposely go out and try to make the other person jealous to elicit some kind of response. Like, healthy relationships have honest communication. And by the way, if you are having an important heart-to-heart conversation, do not do it via text message or DM. Okay? Like, these are like face-to-face conversations, because so much can be misinterpreted on text or DM. Because, and I don't remember the exact percentage, but scientifically, a large percentage of communication is nonverbal. It's body language, facial expressions, tone of voice. And so when you take that large chunk of communication away and leave it just to your words in a text or DM, it can be misinterpreted a lot.
So, in good or bad ways.
In good or bad ways.
Now you're thinking too much of them or too little of them.
Yeah. So, like, healthy relationships, they don't play games. They just communicate. And they do so face-to-face when it's something important.
I think you should always build common ground on Jesus. I mean, obviously we already touched about this. We will exhaust this till the end.
Yes.
But your common ground, number one, before I think you ever go on a date, you should know they follow Jesus. Number one. And then you're building off of that foundation, because that's going to be the foundation for the rest of your relationship. That's number one of the non-negotiables. And it's the starting point to everything. And even if not a lot of your hobbies are the same, if you have Jesus in common, that's a lot to talk about. That's a lot of conversation. That's a lot of fun to have. That's a lot of growing to be had. And you know, Matthew 7:24-25 talks about building your house upon the rock. And a date might not seem that important, but if it is potentially leading you up to the rest of your life, then you got to start right there on the foundation.
When I think, even when you were talking about your story, like, once you realize this is my person, this is serious, both for you and Art, you were both kind of like felt, you know, just innately that need to get back in church. Definitely. To build your relationship on Jesus. So I think that's interesting too, just from another perspective of like, just feeling that need of like, okay, we got to do this right, and right is building that foundation on Jesus.
Right. And I never would have considered going to church with any of my previous relationships ever. It never even came up in conversation. To be honest, I don't even know if they were believers, and we never went to church. But yeah, with Art, it was suddenly this need of, if we're going to do this, we're going to do this the right way, and it all starts with Jesus. So we need to go to church.
Yeah, definitely. Now this is kind of like my pet peeve. This next thing. Okay, because I've seen this play out in so many relationships that I've seen, you know, recently. Do not mistake drama for passion or love.
In any relationship, first of all.
But like, you see this happening so much. Like, okay, having huge explosive meltdowns is not passion or love. It's likely emotional immaturity.
Yeah.
Being on again, off again, on again, off again, that is not your love overcoming things. That is you, again, just probably being emotionally immature. The good thing is that like we have instruction in the Bible to help us differentiate between drama and love. 1 Corinthians 13:4-7 says, love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud, it does not dishonor others, it is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered, it keeps no records of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. So ask yourself, does my relationship resemble that? If it does not, if your relationship is volatile and it's angry and it's just filled with instability and drama, that is not love. Do not mistake volatility and drama for passion and love.
Agreed.
Because even if it comes to the end of that relationship, if they are doing the opposite of that, always trust, always protects, like when a mature relationship ends, the drama on the other end of that is, bad mouthing the other person and going off on tangents, stealing their friends or whatever it is. Like, but if you have chosen a person, whether they're your spouse in the end or not, when you break up with them, you want someone who's going to still protect you and want the best for you. Enough respect to have a mature breakup,
right? And
not
like,
just go off on this.
Because that's not even to say like you're never gonna have arguments. That's unrealistic too. Like you will have disagreements and arguments with your significant other.
Well, sure.
It's not that. It's just how you handle those arguments that really matters.
Yeah,
100%. I think a lot of people their relationships are just skewed because of television, because of soap operas, because of Love Island, because of The Bachelor, because of everything, especially with social media. But if we're starting to take our cues, especially when it comes to finding true love or your spouse, if you're taking your cues from things that are not real, then the things of your actual relationship are not going to be real, and you're setting your future spouse up to fail by putting like, this is the goal. Like, that's not real. Like, that's for views, that's for clicks, that's for statistics. Like, you do not take your cues from that. And those shows are silly and funny and fairly entertaining to watch, but don't ever get it in your mind. And if you're not mature enough to do that, stop watching those shows. But that's not true love. Stop falling for it.
And I think even on the opposite end, like, not only can it make us raise the bar to unrealistic expectations, but it can also make us lower the bar. Recently, my daughter, she's 13, she wanted to read, The Summer I Turned Pretty. So I read the books first, so I would know what was in them, and more so that we could talk about it. And I'm like, okay, in this house, we are not Team Conrad, okay? How he's treating Belly is not okay. Like, I know Belly feels like she's in love with, and so we had that conversation of like, okay, but when a boy is hot, cold, oh, I like you, I don't like you until you like someone else, then I like you again, that's not an okay thing. That is not love. And like, we need to realize that about these stories and about these shows and movies and whatever, like, even if that main character or whoever is okay with that, like, we don't have to be, that is not okay. That is not the standard, whether good or bad.
If they're hot, cold now, they're going to be hot, cold forever. That's who they are. Those are the habits they're establishing.
Right. Okay, the last thing I have. Physical intimacy in dating relationships complicates things.
What?
Yes. So
prove it.
This is, first of all, just to back up, the other things we mentioned about healthy dating relationships, I think absolutely apply to marriages as well. So for our married listeners, like, all of those things we just mentioned applied. This physical intimacy thing, this is specific to dating relationships. And this is not just the churchy, because we're Christians, we're going to say, like, physical intimacy is bad. This is science. So biologically speaking, physical intimacy causes releases of chemicals in our body, and these chemicals are designed to create feelings of trust, closeness, and emotional attachment, which may not even be real apart from the physical relationship. So people end up staying in relationships sometimes that they really shouldn't for longer than they shouldn't, because their bodies have tricked them into believing there's an emotional attachment there that is actually not there. Like, if you took the physicality out of it, there would be nothing left. There would be nothing left of substance to this relationship. And so they might be willing to overlook red flags, disrespect, lack of shared values, emotional immaturity, because their body is tricking them into believing that this feels right. And you don't want to be tricked, right? You don't want to stay in a relationship that's going nowhere because your body's tricking you into believing that you have this emotional attachment or this closeness that you don't have. And so physical intimacy, that just adds a whole complication to your dating.
Because, that's outside the church science.
Right.
But the reason that the physical intimacy releases those oxytocins is because that's what God designed it to be within the marriage, that you are married, and then the physical intimacy now adds more trust, it adds more security, and adds more love, and it was designed that way. And we were saying, isn't it so funny that science just keeps proving God's plan in everything? It's like it was on purpose.
Speaking from someone who did it the wrong way, all the wrong ways, I will say that it absolutely breaks the intimacy in your future relationships. So if you choose to be like, I know I had the philosophy of, what is it that they say, test drive the car before you buy it kind of philosophy. Okay, so I was like one of those where like, well, how will I know if we're going to be compatible? You know, how do I know we're going to have chemistry? So, you know, I feel like I just need to know that before I, you know, commit. And there's two things to that. One was, how stupid and naive are we to believe that something that God created, that we could somehow manipulate that and control that and say, well, I'm going to figure this out for myself, God. I'm not going to go to you. I'm going to figure it out for myself. I'm going to take control of this, and I'm going to see if this works for me. And instead of putting my faith in God and knowing that whoever he picks for me, of course we're going to have chemistry because he designed us to be together. So who am I? I mean, how naive of me to think that I can control what God is in charge of, right? And then when you do it the wrong way and you are, you know, you have a relationship and you share that part of yourself with someone and it doesn't work out, you're taking that baggage and those wounds and everything with you into the next relationship. And if that person also did the same, you guys are sharing all of that baggage and all of those intimacy issues, and the cycle just continues and continues until you finally find your person. But by that time, you are carrying so many wounds and so many scars that it's really, really hard to build intimacy with the person that you eventually end up with. And the only way to find that intimacy again is through Christ, because he is, you know, he with his mercy and his grace, he will forgive you and you can find that intimacy again. But that's not to say that you won't carry those wounds, because the scars are there. You know, you did it the wrong way, and so you're going to carry the scars. If you only did it the way God had intended in the beginning, you can save yourself from years of battle wounds and scars that you will carry forever.
I like the way you put that. Like, how naive of me to think that. But that's culture. That's exactly what they're telling you. That's what every television show says. Oh, how do you know if you're going to be compatible? The overnight date on The Bachelor. Like, that's exactly what it is. And the Bianca girl says, you know, God designed sex so he gets to pick the rules. You designed it. You're in charge of it. And I'm like, yep. I think we trust God with a lot of things, but then all of a sudden it comes to sex and we're like, but not that. I got that under control. I got it. Don't worry about that. And, you know, we've talked about it, Pastor Bill's talked about it from stage, no matter what it is in your life, if you've got this like closet that God can have key to everywhere else in the house except the closet where you've shoved all the junk before, you know, the company comes over or whatever, like you can't come in that, but I feel like that's a big subject that gets shoved in the closet. Like, you can't have access to that. But the rest, I trust you, God, 100%. Let's talk about intimacy and purity. Let's do it. I hate to tell you this, but that is the end of part 1 of our dating episode. Stay tuned for part 2, which will be released next Thursday. You gotta wait an entire week. But until then, you can check out this fun game we played with our spouses.
Where did you guys go on your first date?
2, 3.
Oh.
Okay. How do you spell chili? Your choice.
I don't know how to spell.
Your choice.
Who made the first move?
Oh! No.
Do we get explanation or do we just move on?
What are you calling the first move?
You approaching me.
About what?
The motorcycle.
No, you were already
And you
flirting
walked
with
up to me
before
and you
that.
said, "Hey, big guy, I like your
No,
motorcycle." That's what happened.
No,
That's
you were already
what
flirting with me at that point. You were like, I see that your shoes match your license plate frame.
Maybe.
What song reminds you of your guys' early dates?
1, 2, 3. That, but she said early on. That was our wedding song. That was our wedding song. This is a valid answer.
What was your guys' go-to date night activity?
So long ago.
So long ago. 1, 2, 3. Cheesecake Factory? Oh, we did go to Cheesecake Factory a lot.
How long were you dating when you realized this was the person you were gonna marry?
1, 2, 3.
Whoa!
All right, who said I love you first? No. You tried to like trick me and get an answer without getting an answer.
And you said it.
No. I said okay.
Okay.
And then you said I love you.
What is your official anniversary date?
Like our dating anniversary? Yes.
1, 2, 3.
Okay.
What was your first date?
First date. So,
Alright.
ready? 1, 2, 3, go.
What'd you
So
say?
we have a fake first date, which was a hockey night that I got invited to with your entire family.
That's not a date.
But then a real one, see, because you would say that. So our real one, we went to Universal City Walk.
Yeah. It's not a
Yeah,
date if my grandpa paid for the whole thing and I just invited you to go like on a family outing.
But he called me your boyfriend, and he called me TJ.
Who made the first move?
1, 2, 3.
Good job.
Yeah, good job.
When was your first date?
1, 2, 3.
Boom.
Oh!
If it's not the truth, at least we both
And we
agree.
lied together.
How long were you dating when you knew you would marry them?
What did you say?
Because I'm dedicated.
Oh, he said 2 months.
I was not sure.
2 months, 1 year.
Yep.
What was one of your go-to dates?
Eating at the movies. Thank you.
Who said I love you first?
No, it was totally you. You were just saying things. You don't know the answer.
I don't know.
I remember this. You gave me the I'm not sure if you're ready for this, and I was like, I know.
Clearly that moment meant a lot to me.
Because you just say it to everybody. It doesn't even matter.
You did not have a wedding dance song.
Sure. Of
So
course.
now, after almost 20 years, if you had to pick a song to be your song, what would it be?
This has defined our marriage for the last 10 years.
You want to put me in a bad mood. That's what's going on. Yeah, I got you.
What was yours?
Oh, mine's Cotton Eye Joe because everyone likes it. You can't help but dance.